Everybody, can you see me? So yeah, Emily's taking control of the screen, so hopefully that's all going fine. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Sarah Goldsmith. I work for Yorkshire Wildlife Trust. I've been working in Bradford for the last sort of 5 years, I think now. I've been working in nature with children and young people for about 17 years, doing a mixture of sort of teaching and also play, forest schools. And yeah, it's been really exciting working in Bradford, and I've really enjoyed it. Actually, you know, the community's very much like the community that Anna described. It was slight differences, but yeah, so it's been fascinating listening to that. If you just go on to slide 2, Emily, please. So my project's called the Bud Project. We're funded by the National Lottery Community Fund. We partner with Bradford Council, and the project's about some amazing urban natural spaces. So they're not parks, they're our partner in Bradford is the Countryside and Rights of Way team, and somehow, which is quite rare I think in cities, the council have managed to hold on to some wild natural spaces. Obviously they manage all sorts of natural spaces throughout Bradford, and they just kind of got in, they're trying to hold on to some of these more urban spaces, but there's just quite a lot of problems in terms of perception of them, which is where we came in to try and help shift people's perspective and engage the community in these spaces. And that's really what the project's about, as well as improving the spaces for people and for nature. If we just move on to slide 3, Emily. So this is, we've actually got 7 spaces, which is too much, but they're all quite big. And it's really nice listening to Anna with a really focused community project, because I feel like I'm really thinly spread. But my favourite area to work in is our really diverse area, and it's kind of mapped here a little bit. It's not far from sort of the city centre, like a 10-15 minute walk out, and there's not much green space at all. A lot of the green spaces you can see are actually schools, school grounds. There's a couple of parks. We've got a green space towards the top where you can see sort of Tesco's there, and then right in the middle of the map is another one, 2 of our green spaces there, and they're surrounded by residential areas. Lots of people don't really have gardens, and they're like little pockets of amazing wildlife and nature and trees and meadows and streams and ponds, just kind of stuck there. As you can imagine, not only are they full of nature, they're also full of litter. If you just pop on to slide 4, Emily. Yeah, so when we started, this is sort of the reason I called this, try not to stay on the litter slide for too long because it is a bit sad, journeys into urban nature, is because I like to think of things in terms of narratives and journeys, and where people start from and where they're going to, where I look at my own life like that, and I like to look at other people's like that, and try and see where you can start with people and where you can take them, and looking at my own journey and what's helped me on the way. How can any of those things also be helpful for other people? And nature has been my total saviour in my journey on so many levels, and especially for children and young people who I work with a lot. My thought is, if I can at all inspire any young people to feel that sense of belonging to the earth that I do, then it can get you through so much. So yeah, this is where we started with our green spaces. And you know, so if you kind of think about where people are starting from, I mean, I would say apart from a very small minority, most people living in this area, which is largely a Great Horton area in Bradford, are very disconnected from nature. I mean, it's hard for me to, when I work with children and young people, obviously it's been a long time now that I can kind of get where people are again, but being so connected myself, it's very difficult for me to remember where people are. I encounter lots of children who've never walked on long grass at all. Maybe they've been to the park and they've gone on some shortcut grass, but never to their knees. I have children who've never touched a tree before. Lots of people who've never sat on the earth, and surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, lots of adults who have never done that either. I had a teacher the other day who couldn't name a native tree. I have children who don't know what a snail is, can't name a snail. Sometimes this is it's a cultural thing and a language thing as well, but not always. And I think there's an interesting thing about the sort of cultural differences. People who have come from other countries or have the ancestry and then the stories passed down from other countries, often in those other countries, nature can be quite dangerous. It's not so much the case in Britain, but this kind of desire to create a sterile environment to shield them from nature, sort of, it does kind of make sense. But then there's also this similar story for people whose ancestors are in Britain, and I work with people in all cultures, and there are a lot of white British people whose family have always lived in Bradford or in the north. So there's this similar story in Britain where traditionally people who were poorer lived closer to the land, and they had more knowledge of plants and wildlife, but they obviously aspired to a more affluent lifestyle, one that strove to move away from this closeness. But then I think it's sort of fascinating that this has really moved around full cycle now. And if you look at the more affluent part of the population who've got more free time and better access to nature, better transport opportunities, and then the income to buy clothes and footwear, to make them comfortable in nature, and also to buy nature experiences. The majority of children who access forest schools, they pay for that privilege of being connected to nature. So I think that whole cycle of belonging and disconnection and belonging again is quite interesting as a journey. Okay, let's move on to something prettier. So yeah, sometimes I'm quite daunted by the distance that we've travelled away from nature, but I am consoled by the fact that disconnection is quite a recent phenomenon. And in so many ways, the journey back is towards something deep in our makeup and our genetic memories. And so that possibility of homecoming is real, and maybe, dare I say, actually quite an easy journey. I spend a lot of time working with children and young people. I find that a bit more straightforward, although I do really love it when adults join in. Most of my examples are about working with children and young people, And I'm going to kind of go through that a little bit. Just wanted to show you just the contrast between that litter and actually what amazing things you can find on the sites. Just one thing I want to sort of talk about in terms of disconnection and deprivation is it took me quite a long while to realise that sort of nature disconnection is just sort of symptomatic of something a lot larger in areas of deprivation. And it's just, people suffer from a deprivation of experience in general. It's not just nature. I took a bunch of young people out to, I used to work in Dewsbury, and I took them to the town hall to do like a presentation to local councillors. And I walked in the building and I sort of turned around and I just couldn't see them. I was like, where have they gone? And they were stuck at the entranceway, just gazing up at the ceiling of this beautiful building, which to me was just like, oh yes, just a building. And then I realized that they'd never really been anywhere like that at all. And actually, when I thought about it, they'd sort of been to the supermarket and to my playground and Primark, a couple of shops maybe, and actually they'd never really seen anything else. So the fact that they don't sort of have much experience of nature is just part of a wider thing. So just talking about journeys, so I think it's just so important to find out where people were starting from, and to underestimate how comfortable might people be in nature. And sorry, I lost my thread there. I've half written this and half talking, so it's really important to underestimate how comfortable people might be rather than overestimate it, because if you get this wrong and you rush people, then you've jeopardized the whole journey and you've set everything back so much, and it's really hard to pick that up again. I once did this really wrong, and I was working with the local library, and there was like a new group of the family group, but we'd sort of decided to go on a walk and write some poetry, but I really hadn't thought it through very well. And I hadn't met a lot of people in this group, and they were like new families who sort of went to the library but didn't know me. And I sort of took them on a walk, and we went down this, like the entrance to the site, and you have to go in single file, and it just for like about a minute or two, less than that. And when we came out the other side, I turned around and I'd lost most of the people. And I was like, where were they? And someone had got stung by a nettle right at the beginning, and everyone had gone home. And I just left with a few people that I already knew, and we just didn't get very far. And yeah, that's kind of thing taught me a lot, that I really need to go at people's pace. Okay, let's go to slide 6. So yeah, getting people to lead the journey, I think that's so important. And so one thing that I really like to do with children and young people is play, and also do a lot of nature art. And art is something that children do from such a young age, and every child who goes to school gets an opportunity to do something like this. It's something very comfortable for them, and all you have to do is just swap your resources. Instead of using paper, use leaves and stones, and you can collect colours from nature and use them for collages. But while you're kind of outdoors and collecting and looking and observing, then that's a perfect opportunity for people to start having nature encounters. And that just leads you naturally into more immersive nature activities, like hiding in bushes and watching for birds and turning over rocks and looking for animals. If you go on to slide 7, please, Emily. So I do a lot of just holding creatures and finding creatures and trying to encourage children to let them crawl on them. And you can see there, even, I mean, I have a spider day at Halloween where that is the kind of challenge for the day, to see how many people can be brave enough to let a spider crawl over them. I mean, if you started with that, then that could just really put people off. But I really love it when children push me to, you know, to do more than I expect of them. And I follow them rather than lead them. I mean, one important way to lead is to lead by example, and just demonstrating how comfortable it's possible to be in nature is so important. Getting muddy, kneeling down, lying on the floor, touching things, exploring fearlessly is a great way to show people what's possible. And although I'm not a big plant and animal namer, you know, I don't think it's an essential requisite for being connected to nature, and you don't want to make it inaccessible for people. It is quite good if you can do a bit of that yourself to inspire confidence and set aspirations for children about where the journey can take them. And they do have a bit more confidence in you if you feel very, if they know you're knowledgeable about something that they're not so comfortable with. Okay, let's go to slide 8. One thing I absolutely love doing, I've sort of talked about nature art and about exploring. Something that every child loves is playing hide and seek. And what I absolutely love about it is it's very difficult to encourage children to be still in nature, but hide and seek does really offer that opportunity of staying quiet, and then you can, like, the leaves are fluttering, you can just slowing down and having a little bit of time in that peace and quiet and letting your senses take over. So I love playing hide and seek for that, and often I will call it hide and see because it's more about the seeing. I've got this little boy here who in the end I decided, I mean, I used to demonstrate to children and young people how to hide really well, but I always used to win hide and seek because I was really good at it, and they were never quite as brave as me, as like putting my hood up and burying myself in a thicket of brambles. And so I got into the habit of getting into teams and hiding people. And so I put a leader on each team, and then we would hide someone who was quite brave. And this would really like demonstrate to children how well you could hide. And so we've hidden this boy here pretty well. And I mean, it was ages, like 15 minutes before he was found. And he nearly fell asleep. You know, he didn't get much sleep overnight anyway, stayed up late on screens. And then this is like the series of photos I took. And then he like, we found him. We were like, yeah, do you want to come out? And I said, I'd give you a hand. There's quite a lot of brambles around there. And he just was like, no, I've never been so comfortable in my life, and just curled back up again and stayed there for ages longer, which was lovely.
Sorry, Sarah, we might have to wrap up. I didn't want to interrupt your lovely story, but
That's okay.
sorry about that.
That's fine. I haven't got lots more to say anyway. Can you just go to slide 11? The last thing I just really want to say is about having fires. I do try and be really low resource, but having fires is super important, and you can just see by these beautiful pictures there. If anyone wants to talk to me about how to have fires out in green spaces, then please do get back in touch. So, okay, thanks very much.